You get to the interview and they say, please introduce yourself, right? What do you say? Okay, now, the thing about these highly general questions is that everybody's got a different recommendation on how you respond to it. You could ask like 100, advisors or whatever, what you should say, and they'll give you 100 different answers. Let me give you my sort of recommendation. First of all, when you get to the job interview, people have commented about, you have to make a good first impression. So, you need to dress the part, you need to groom yourself professionally. You need to smile. Now, for a lot of you introverts out there, a lot of people got this down, but a lot of people don't. Your natural face might kind of be like this. I don't look particularly happy. Just kind of, neutral. Now, the other thing is that if you go to, say, a job interview, you're usually nervous, you're usually uncomfortable. Excuse me, you're out of your comfort zone. And so, unless you're really consciously thinking about it, your facial expression can show your feelings. So you go there and you look stressed and uncomfortable and like you're hating every minute of it. And you look like, you're nervous, So when they say smile, if you've heard that before, what they just mean is like try and look pleasant. You don't have to really, dial it to 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do any of that, the brilliant $1 million smile, ding. You don't have to do that. All it means is look approachable, right? Just try and I'm trying to look pleasant now. I'm trying to, look like I'm in a good mood, like I'm enjoying doing this and I'm enjoying what's going on, right? I don't know if I'm succeeding, but it's better than looking like that. You understand? So people have talked about that kind of stuff in response to this question. They talk about how you dress, how you groom yourself, how you your body language, right? Try and reasonably sit up straight. And then if you shake hands or do chest bumps or however you greet people in a professional situation, do that stuff properly, appropriately. And, they talk about all that stuff. So, I'm assuming that everybody knows this, okay? And this is an interview. They've invited you in, okay? And it's the opening question. Instead of saying, tell me about yourself, which is kind of the standard opening question for a lot of interviews, they'll say, please introduce yourself. You see how easy it is to be a recruiter? Like, you don't even have to come up with your own questions. You just ask the same crap that everybody asks, right? Totally artificial. Nobody talks like this ever when they're like speaking freely to their friends, right? But they talk like this to you. Now, if you were in different situations, if you were in a classroom type situation, there's like 30 of you there, you may respond differently, okay? There's no one blanket answer to this. But if you're in a job interview, one method of answering this is just you treat it like they asked you, tell me about yourself. It's the same question. And my recommendation for how to answer, tell me about yourself, is 3 parts. You may have heard this before. It's the most popular video on my channel, so I don't know if you've seen it. But the first thing you say is, well, as you can see from my resume, now that's actually optional. It's more of a memory jog for you, but you could start off with actually saying that. Well, as you can see from my resume, and then you go down your resume, you do a summary of your resume in about 45 seconds. So just the very basic Cliff's Notes. I worked here for 5 years in this role, then I worked here for 5 years in that role. Before that, I had, education. I have this educational credential. And what you want to do is you want to do it in reverse chronological order. So you start with the oldest stuff, or no, that's chronological order. You start with the oldest stuff, and then you work your way to the present. So you end with your most recent job, and then you say, and that's what brings me here today, and why I'm excited to learn more about this position or this job. Okay, so it's like 3 parts. Well, as you can see from my resume, then you summarize your resume in 45 seconds, going from oldest to newest. Start with your education, and then your experience, oldest to newest. So that brings you up to your most recent job. And then you say, and that's what brings me here today and why I'm excited to learn more about this position. Okay, there's all kinds of reasons for this. Number one, you don't want to take up a ton of time on this question. This is an introductory question. It's an icebreaker. You don't want to be sitting there for 10 minutes talking about something you did 10 years ago that nobody gives a rat's ass about. Okay, so brief, right? You're not there to talk about the past necessarily. You're talking about what you can do for them and why you're awesome. That's a different thing. So you want to get off this question quickly and bring them to talk about this position. The reason I'm here is to talk about this job. Let's get into it. Here's how I kick ass at this type of role, and here's what I can do for you. Okay? What's actually going on with this question is that a lot of the time, recruiters, they have a meeting and they have a job interview to do, and it's with you. And maybe they've had back-to-back job interviews with different candidates for different jobs all day. And they really haven't done any homework right before the interview to even take like a couple of minutes to like look at your application and look at your resume. So a lot of the time, you come down to the interview, they see on their schedule, they have an interview with John Doe, so they know your name, but they have no idea who you were. They have no idea anything on your resume, or, they've forgotten. They look at resumes and things all day long. They sit talking to candidates all day long. They can't remember which one you were. So that's usually the reason why they ask this question, is because they don't know anything about you by the time the meeting starts. They shake your hand, they sit down at the table, and they're waiting for you to like give them a basic overview of who you are, right? So it actually does, ironically, serve a function to ask this question a lot of the time. Okay, I mean, that's obviously not universal, but that happens a lot more than you think. Okay, so that's why if you answer that way, that can make a lot of sense. Another answer, the only other answer I'm going to give to this is, you could say this answer in a job interview. It could also be in other situations also. So it could be in a networking type situation. You meet somebody at an event or in the hall, or, whatever, someone introduces you, right? And they ask you, please introduce yourself, or, something like this. There's another way of doing it. This is more for networking type situations, but you could also do this in a job interview. It works perfectly fine. And I've done a video on this, and this is where you say 4 things, okay? East Coast. And it's a lot quicker, but this is the things you would say. Okay, so the first thing you would say is your name. So you'd say, "Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is," and then your name, right? Mr. X, like whatever you call yourself, the Midnight Bastard, whatever your name is. And then you would give your tagline. Now, if you don't know what a tagline is, this is like your brand. It's, if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's that little field under your name. It's kind of like what you identify as. So you could say, I'm an accountant, or, I'm a fully qualified mountaineer, right? Or I'm an biologist, right? I don't know what that is, but if that's you, you say that, and their mouths will be agape with just how impressed they are, right? So your tagline, it's who you are, right? Now, for some people, this can be a bit challenging, because let's say you're kind of a generalist. You've worked as an accountant for a couple of years, but then you sort of changed careers and now you're a teacher, but you also fly aircraft as your hobby, so you're a fully qualified pilot. So how do you summarize that? You're an accountant and a teacher and a pilot. Like, if you were to say that, people would probably be confused as to who the hell you are, right? But if you say something like, I'm a student, I'm a nursing student, or I am a fully qualified engineer, or I have an accounting degree. It's like, okay, that's who you are. That's who you are to me. It makes perfect sense. You've just graduated with a degree in architecture, right? That's your tagline. That's who you are, right? If you're going for a job and the job is for, I don't know, supervisor of, sewerage treatment attendants in the Department of Public Works for your municipal government, right? Something like that. That's the title or whatever. You could say that as your tagline. Like a position can be your tagline if that's who you are. And it also looks like you're fully qualified to do this job if that's how you introduce yourself. So don't go down for an interview for that job and then say, when they say, please introduce yourself, you say, hi, I'm Bill. I'm a fully qualified pilot. You understand? Right? Okay, so that's the first two things. So the first thing is you say, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is your X, whatever your name is. And then the second thing you say is your tagline. Okay? I'm a student. I'm a civil engineer, whatever you are. Okay? The third one, and this is my recommendation, is you say what problem you solve. Okay? So if you've introduced yourself as someone who's recently graduated with a degree in architecture, you say, I specialize in this particular type of architecture, right? Or if you've had a job recently, you'd say, I specialize in this particular thing, right? Okay. So it's the problem you solve. Now, I'm just looking at my notes here, okay? What I've written down from the last time I had to answer this. Basically, if you can mention the requirements of the job in there, you'll get bonus points. So if they're looking for a civil engineer that has experience doing this particular type of work, if you say, well, I specialize in doing that particular type of work, that really helps, okay? The example I'd written down here is that you would say something like, I have over 15 years experience helping to design the most cost-effective, energy-efficient, and flexible commercial buildings available. Something like that. That's the problem you solve. And if you're going for a job where you have to do that, that's perfect. And then finally, once again, you say the last thing, which is you direct their attention to this thing that you're here to talk about. I'm excited to learn about this current opportunity. Something like that. Okay? Or I'm excited. What I have written is I'm excited about the opportunity to bring my skills and abilities to this role. Something like that. Right? So 4 things: your name, your tagline, the problem you solve, and then you conclude and you direct their attention to this thing that you've come here to talk about. I'm excited to learn about this opportunity. I'm excited to learn how I can bring my talents to help you in this situation. Something like that, right? And that's a great way to introduce yourself. It gives them a lot of information that they're wanting to hear. It makes a good first impression. It frames the discussion, and it brings the topic to the thing you want to talk about, which is like how you are awesome and you're the person that they should hire, right? And it doesn't waste a lot of time. So hopefully that makes sense.